The Gatekeeper. One afternoon in late March 1943, Dorothy McKibben, a 45-year-old single mother, was crossing the street in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Halfway across, she ran into Joe Stevenson, a local businessman she knew casually. There were no cars coming, so they talked in the street. "How would you like a job as a secretary?" asked Stevenson, who'd heard McKibben was looking for work. "Secretary to what?" she wanted to know. He smiled. "Secretary," he said. She knew he was doing something for the government, something to do with the war. "Well, what would I do?" she asked. "You would be a secretary," he said. "Don't you know what a secretary does?" "Not always." "Well, think it over. I'll give you 24 hours. Intrigued, McKibben agreed to meet her potential employer the next day in the lobby of La Fonda, the nicest hotel in town. She was standing there, waiting, when she saw a man enter. He wore a trench coat. He had wiry black hair and bright blue eyes. He strode directly to her and introduced himself as Mr. Bradley. Then he fired quick questions about her background, her skills, her knowledge of Santa Fe. As she answered, he leaned forward and stared intensely at her. "I never met a person with a magnetism that hit you so fast and so completely," she said later. She had no idea who this man was or what he was doing in town. She didn't care. "I knew anything he was connected with would be alive," she said. "I thought to be associated with that person, whoever he was, would be simply great." She took the job. When she reported for work the next day, the man was waiting for her. Only when they got inside and closed the door did he tell her that his real name was Robert Oppenheimer. A week later, confused scientists began showing up in Santa Fe, wandering the streets holding a letter that read, "Go to 109 East Palace Avenue, Santa Fe, New Mexico. There you will find out how to complete your trip." Friendly locals directed the strangers to an ancient wrought iron gate that opened onto a courtyard built by Spanish settlers in the 1600s. In one of the buildings surrounding the courtyard was a door marked with the number 109. When newcomers knocked, they were greeted by Dorothy McKibben, the Gatekeeper, as she quickly became known. They arrived, breathless and sleepless and haggard, tired from riding on trains that were slow, she remembered. The new members were tense with expectancy and curiosity. Those were the ones who found the address. McKibben often got calls from nearby drugstores that began, "There is a party here who is lost." She'd say, "Send him over right away." In a small office crammed with desks and boxes, McKibben wrote out security passes for the scientists. She told them that from now on, their mailing address was Post Office Box 1663, Santa Fe, New Mexico. To avoid drawing attention to the arrival of so many scientists, she cautioned them never to refer to each other as doctor or professor while in town. Then she gave them directions to Los Alamos. Scientists continued arriving throughout April. "The office was a madhouse," said McKibben. Famous physicists were given code names. Enrico Fermi, for example, was supposed to tell people his name was Henry Farmer, but Fermi had a hard time remembering his new name and felt absurd pronouncing it with his thick Italian accent. Like Fermi, much of Oppenheimer's scientific dream team was European, many of them Jews who had escaped from Hitler. This gave America a huge advantage in its race with Germany, but it also presented a security problem. The people of Santa Fe, a city of just 20,000, began to wonder why so many men with European accents were suddenly walking the streets. And there were other clues that something was going on. Long lines of army trucks were seen driving up the narrow road to Los Alamos. They always went up the hill loaded. They always came back empty. Some amazing rumors began to circulate through Santa Fe, remembered Leslie Groves. Some guessed that Los Alamos housed a secret military project. They were making submarines, according to one rumor, death rays, according to another. Others claimed Los Alamos was home for pregnant military personnel, or possibly a nudist colony. The crazier the rumors got, the more they worried Groves and Oppenheimer. Up on the hill, as Los Alamos became known to its residents, Oppenheimer asked Charlotte Serber to step into his office. He needed her help, he told her. Charlotte was married to Robert Serber, the physicist and former student who'd become Oppenheimer's right-hand man the year before. Oppenheimer knew Robert and Charlotte well. He trusted them completely. The rumors in Santa Fe were getting wilder and wilder, Oppenheimer told Serber. The danger was that sooner or later someone might stumble onto the truth, and the story could spread. And if the Germans learned how seriously the Americans were working on an atomic bomb, they'd surely double their own efforts. Oppenheimer's solution was to plant a false but believable story about what was happening at Los Alamos. Therefore, he told Serber, for Santa Fe purposes, we are making an electric rocket. Charlotte Serber was unsure what this had to do with her. Go to Santa Fe, Oppenheimer continued. Talk. Talk too much. Talk as if you've had too many drinks. Get people to eavesdrop. Say a number of things about us that you are not supposed to. Finally, I don't care how you manage it, say we are building an electric rocket. Charlotte explained the mission to her husband, and they drove from Los Alamos to Santa Fe. They walked into the bar at La Fonda at about 9:00 p.m., sat at a table, and ordered drinks. Our conversation was singularly dull as we each wondered how to bring electric rockets into it, Charlotte recalled. We told little stories about Los Alamos, mentioning the forbidden name boldly and loudly, but no ears cocked in our direction. Unable to attract attention, they walked down the street to Joe King's Blue Ribbon Bar, which Robert described as jumping, jammed, and crowded. A young man immediately approached Charlotte, bowed, and asked her to dance. She agreed. While they danced, she got the conversation started by asking if he lived in Santa Fe. Yes, he said. What do you do? She asked. Nothing. How come you're not in the service? 4F, he said, a military classification for those physically unfit for service. I want to get a job on a ranch. We're up at Los Alamos, she said, steering toward the target. Uh-huh. It's quite a place, don't you think? She asked. So mysterious and secret. Yeah, he shrugged. You know, I sure want to run a ranch someday. But what do you suppose they're doing at Los Alamos? I don't know, he said. Come to town often? You sure dance fine. We come to town as often as we can, but they don't like to let us out much. What's your guess about what cooks up there? Beats me. Don't care. May I have another dance later? Robert Serber watched it all from a booth near the dance floor. Seeing that things were going badly for his wife, he walked up to the tightly packed bar, turned toward the man next to him, grabbed the lapels of his jacket, and shouted, Do you know what we're doing at Los Alamos? We're building an electric rocket. The man grunted and sipped his drink. Driving back to Los Alamos that night, the Serbers knew their mission had failed. The FBI and Army intelligence never reported picking up any rumors about electric rockets, Robert said. The spy business isn't as easy as it appears in the movies. And so the rumors in Santa Fe kept flying. Something big was obviously going on, and locals wondered if jobs might be available. Almost every day, someone knocked on the door at 109 East Palace and asked Dorothy McKibben for work on the new government project in town. I can't understand wherever you got that idea, said the smiling gatekeeper. There's nothing of that sort in Santa Fe that we know of.